Folks, Jeremy Beard, welcome in the Drop Zone Hunting, episode number 7. I'm calling this one Memories in the Making. My guests today are Donna and Steve Brown of Hickory Grove Taxidermy, located in Pocahontas, Illinois. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Turkey season's in full swing right now.
Yes, it is.
Anybody having any luck?
Oh, we haven't personally.
No.
Wife got one,
I got a Jake.
She got a Jake.
Donna got a Jake.
But we've had some customers bring a few birds in.
That was my next question, and had some birds come in.
A few.
Yeah. Any good ones?
Yes.
Yeah. Which biggest beard?
Oh, I had a double beard come in. I think one was about 10 and a half and the other one's close to 10.
Really?
Normally you get the double beards and one of them would be nice and big and the other one won't. But this one had 2 big beards.
Do you think the turkey hunters more go for the spur or the beard? That's their most, like, is it the beard?
I think it's beards because that's what they can see when it's coming in.
What are they, the spurs? Does the longer the spur, the older the bird? Is that true?
That's what I understand.
That's what we,
Yeah. I never did know how that works. Donna, Steve, tell me a little bit about yourselves, one at a time here, and then how you guys kind of got interested and got into this taxidermy business. Go ahead, Donna.
well, I've always liked it for years, and I wanted to do it probably 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But when you had little kids, you couldn't do it. So after the kids got older, and we just started piddling with it and basically did most of it on our own. And
so this was something that you knew. This wasn't something that just come along later in life. You kind of knew for a while that you were definitely interested in it.
I was always interested in it.
Yeah. What about you?
Well, oddly enough, I had no interest in taxidermy.
No.
I was a trapper and I caught fur and sold it. I wasn't interested in mounting it.
Yeah.
She's the one that wanted to get us in there, and I'm glad she did.
Yeah. So with that being said, how does that? I mean, how does that process? It's easy for me to say, I think I wanted to be a taxidermist. Is this a trial and error type of a business?
Yes, to a certain extent it is. She wanted to get in it, and of course, being a trapper and a hunter, we'd come up with some specimens.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate enough to know a gentleman that was in the taxidermy, and he was good enough to show us how to mount our first deer. And we've kind of gone from there. Yeah.
Now, who does what in who's the ringleader?
Steve.
Donna. Are you sure?
Well, Steve does all the grunt work.
Yeah.
Much. He does. All the skin them out and everything. He pretty much does that.
Yeah.
I do more of that. But then when we get down to the making it a quality mount, she's very instrumental in that. She's very good at the finish work. And that's what everybody sees.
Sure. Let's do that. Let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about the process of creating a taxidermy piece, whether it's let's just start with a deer. Since this is a deer hunting show, let's start with a deer. I bring a deer to you, okay? From the point I drop it off to you guys, what's the process? How does this work?
Well,
and you don't have to give up any trade secrets or anything, but how does this process work?
Well, when you bring it in, we will ask you some questions, how you want it mounted, what type of farm you want, and sometimes we'll make suggestions, say if it's got a damaged place or anything that we can kind of turn that and hide it towards the wall or whatever. But we start off filling out a farm and getting some information from you.
Yeah.
And to see if also you guys want scenery with it, then you tell us if you want scenery or if you want us to build something, and you can even bring it in if you got something that like some old barnwood or whatever you want from like your grandpa or whatever. We don't mind doing that. We'll do that for you too.
So we get through the paperwork process. We leave. What happens now with Steve and Donna with this deer?
Well, the first thing we got to do, and this is usually my step, I will skin the head out.
Okay.
I will get the cape completely caped out. Once we get it caped out, then we've got to get the eyes, mouth, nose. We got to get all that thinned out and turned.
Okay.
Then it goes to a salt table.
Okay. Salt table. What's that?
Well, salt table, you put salt all over it so you can save the hide.
Gotcha.
Because otherwise, the hide, you got a short time to get that done. Otherwise, your hide will ruin. So
Okay.
you got to it's a salt process, and then it goes into 2 days, and then you go into a pickle. And I mean, it's a lot of steps to it. I mean, it's not just 1 week.
Right.
So
You guys, inevitably, you're taking the hide from the animal, peeling back as much of whatever you can get off of it, and then basically taking it down to, would you say, almost like a backsided of like leather, like real soft.
No,
That process quite that far, or no?
no. We will thin it down before it goes in the pickle, just on a shaving beam. I'll use a beam and a knife, and I'll shave it down. Basically, all I'm doing is trying to get all the red meat off of it.
Okay.
Comes out of the pickle, we will take it over to what they call a round wheel, and we will shave it down. And sometimes on real thick deer, we may have to do this process a couple times.
Yeah.
And we'll get it thinned, and we'll put it back in the pickle overnight. We'll re-inspect it the next day, and then the tanning solution goes on.
How many ticks come up out of that pickling? Like, is it crazy or not really?
no,
Because I just think about all the ticks on the damn thing.
there are a lot of ticks on certain areas.
Yeah.
Illinois is not so bad, but other states are
Really?
quite a few.
Missouri
Really?
is
Missouri's really
extremely tick.
Really?
Every deer we have coming in from Missouri has
More ticks.
probably 5 times as many ticks as the ones from Illinois on the average.
So you kind of probably be a little careful of that too, and you're handling.
Oh,
these
yeah.
Oh,
things,
you do.
You know.
You gotta.
We got sprays that we spray on them. If we start seeing a lot of ticks, we put them in a plastic bag and put a spray on them, which will kill the ticks in 24 hours. We'll put it in the refrigerator, keep them cold, and then go back to working on them.
I'll be darned. So we get my tan hide. It's, and Dad didn't do it, but you got the tan hide. And now you'd said, I pick out the scene that I want, or the look. So I'm assuming that that's a mold, obviously. So then the process starts. You got the tans ready to. Is the process ready to try to start putting this on the mold?
It's getting close. We will go through one other process after we take it. Well, we will get measurements. We will freeze it. Then we will order the forms.
Gotcha.
After that, we will take it out and do the final prep work of the final thinning, sewing any damaged places we need to repair, trying to get that type of stuff done.
Wow. And then it's time to start forming.
Yep.
Is that a process?
Well, yeah. I mean, you get the farm, you gotta put the antlers on and get them all set the right height and everything, and you do all that measurement, and you do the same measurement as you did when you took it off of the hide.
Off the
very
actual
beginning.
skull and
Yes.
stuff.
And then you gotta scrape it, rough up the farm, it's called. Rough it all up, and then you gotta put all the glue on. You gotta put the ear liners in the deer and clay them all on the farm. And
there are different processes. Like we do, most of the time we use an ear liner.
yeah,
Some people do a Bondo ear. I have never felt real comfortable with the Bondo ear, so we do the ear liner, which neither one of them's right or wrong. It's just the way that works best for the individual.
So some people, is this all depend on the taxidermist? Some people, do all hides get sent off and tanned, or do some people actually do that process themselves? Or do most people send them to somebody that does that?
there's a lot of taxidermists that send theirs off.
Yeah,
Now we do our own.
really,
We do 90% of our
Yeah.
own.
really.
because I mean, you don't want to you're at somebody's mercy when you send it off.
I see
so
what
we
you're
would
saying.
rather do it ourselves. We know they're there, so we can get started on them earlier.
That makes sense because you send them off and then, hey, where's my hides? Well, I'm getting to them. Well, man, I got to get this thing turned around. So you can be at the mercy of a third party here.
Right.
Yes,
when you
and
do
by
that.
doing them ourselves, we got a better control of it. Now, if somebody brings in a moose or an elk or something like that, which a replacement cape can't be found, obviously,
Right.
we got a guy that we send it to that does it, and he usually gets it turned around pretty quick for us. He does pretty good.
Yeah, because that's a valid point, because a lot of times if a person had a messed up hide, whether they had sat out, maybe the weather got warm on them and they was farther away from getting it to you soon enough, or whatever the reason might be, you take a chance of losing a hide. With a deer, like you just said, it's a little easier to replace a buck hide, from a whitetail than it would be, like you're saying, like a moose or a bigger,
Correct.
larger animal,
Yes.
for one, because we don't have them around here.
Right. Yeah.
But I'd say we replace a hide maybe a couple times a year. Sometimes the guy will just bring the antlers. The hide was bad. I couldn't get it. Can you get me a hide?
Found it,
And so-
Right.
found it late, couldn't find it
Right.
for a while, and then all of a sudden found
Exactly.
it. Gotcha.
And we do have several different places that do butchering and stuff, and they will save us if a hide comes in that the guy's not going to mount,
Yeah.
and they don't want the hide. I've got a guy that saves a few of them for me every year.
Well, that's
so
smart.
It works
Hell
out.
yeah.
So, yeah, if anybody's got extra hides, I mean, that does help because you never know what you're going to come across.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know what you're going to get into,
No.
with that, or something they shot at some place that you're trying to fix it, and it's just something that, man, I can't get this.
Or even like they bring it to you and the brisket's the worst. A lot of them want to cut the brisket all the way up.
When they go to
skin it
field
out.
dressing
Yeah.
them.
When they go to field dress it.
Yeah, and they bring it up too far.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Or cut it out.
Oh,
We've also had them cut completely out.
Didn't have a brisket
Didn't
when it
have a
came in,
brisket.
so
well, and I guess if a person doesn't know any better, they may
Exactly.
not know,
Hey,
Right. They don't know.
exactly.
what's going on with that.
So then it helps when you got an extra hide because then you call them and say, hey,
We can't use
we
this
can't
one,
use this hide.
but we can get you one.
Right.
So if you had to put a time frame on a deer, if you had to put a time frame on, I know you got the days of soaking and all that, but if of actual man hours in one animal, if you had to calculate that out roughly, a rough estimate, how many hours you think are in, on average, one deer head, if you had to estimate it?
I'm going to estimate 15 hours plus.
Just on and off, and
On and off.
Right.
yeah, which that's a lot. That's a lot of hours, because taking out all the other processes that go with it, that's a lot of hours. So let's move into you like you'd said, you had a couple customers bring you a turkey. How's that process work?
Well, it's very similar.
It is.
First, we got to get it skinned out.
Skinned out.
How in the hell does that happen with all them feathers?
If they bring me a fresh bird, say they shot that morning and bring it to me, assuming that I have time to do, which I try to do, I will get it skinned that afternoon for them. And they can come back and pick up their breast meat the next day. Now, if it's been frozen and I don't know that it's fresh or stuff, I don't offer that
don't
because
offer
I don't
that.
want somebody eating something that's spoiled. But if we know it's good, hey, if you want to come back and get it tomorrow, I'll have it for you.
Yeah. So is this I'm serious. I have no idea. I mean, how do you literally you're pulling the
skin away from
feathers back a ways to where you can get down to where, or do you just have to make a spot that you're going in?
No, they've got feather tracks.
Yeah.
And on the in between the feather tracks, there are areas that have very few feathers,
Yeah.
and you do your cutting in those areas.
Is this a learned process?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
it's a continuing process.
Yeah.
We have actually changed our process of skinning them this year.
Really?
Found an easier way.
Yeah. Just
Yeah.
by trial and error?
No, I mean, when you talk to
Other people?
taxidermists, yeah. I mean,
And we go to some of the shows and sit in on seminars, and that's where we found out some of this stuff.
Nice.
but turkeys take a long time. You can do 2 deer to 1 turkey.
Really?
Yeah.
Is the process the same after the bird comes off the meat? Like with the hide? Does it go through the same
does not.
salting
No,
process and everything? No?
No.
no,
No.
but you got to take them. They got it's called a flesher, and you have to flesh all that, the meat and everything off of that inside that, the skin.
On
Mhm.
the inside where the feather quills are, there'll be a layer of fat and stuff around them, and you have to flesh that all off. And so it's pretty complicated event. Then once you get all that done, you got all this grease you've been taking off this thing.
A lot of grease.
Now you got to get the feathers cleaned, and you go through a washing process to wash the feathers. The first time I saw that, I'm thinking, "Holy cow, the guy's ruined my bird."
Because they get so wet
yeah, those
and matted
wet.
and
Yeah.
It
napped.
looked
And,
horrible,
Terrible.
but once you learn the process, they come out looking better than they were when they brought them out of the field.
really?
Yeah.
So then does that bird, so the head of a turkey,
The head,
is that a real head? Is that the real head of a turkey?
that is the real head. We send them off and get them freeze dried.
Aha.
So you get your head.
So there's
back.
something different.
Just the head
Just
is
the
freeze
head.
dried,
Okay.
and we send that off. Some people they do have artificial heads you can buy.
We
Neither
personally
one
don't
of us
like
like
them.
those.
Just because it doesn't have the same real look.
No.
No, it doesn't
real
have the
look.
same real look. It kind of looks plastic.
Yeah.
And so we send them off, get them freeze dried, which causes complication. Because, like I said, we tan our deer in house so we can keep control of them.
Right.
When you send that head out, all of a sudden,
You have
you're at
no
somebody
control.
else's mercy.
Again.
And from past experience, we found out it takes anywhere from 6 to 9 months to get the heads back.
Are you shitting
Yes,
me?
that's
And so-
how long it takes.
So that's why
So
we
we're
say a
usually
year
doing-
for turkey.
Yeah, because the time we get them back, and then I got to paint all the heads, and it's almost starting turkey season. We're starting to mount them already. from
Really?
Last year.
We just finished
So we
last
just
week's
finished them.
turkeys. We still got some of them in the shop drying right now.
Really? Now, when you say painting, and if I'm getting too deep, tell me no, I can't tell you all that. But is this like a little
I
like a
airbrush.
airbrushing
Airbrush
type
Airbrush
of
all over.
business, or is it with a
No, it's airbrush.
She uses an airbrush.
airbrushing? So
Right.
like colors and like, is you just practicing somewhere to kind of and like on a piece of paper to kind of get what you
Yes.
like and then take
Yeah,
it over and
sometimes, yeah.
like
I
kind of a
do.
back and forth to
Right.
make sure.
Get whatever color. I just got a kind of a certain color scheme. I mean, if somebody comes in and said, "Hey, I want make sure my head's completely white," or when I shot my turkey, it was blue. I mean,
So you
turkeys-
can do kind
you
of
can do
what
whatever
they
they-
want.
And a lot of them, if they don't say anything, a lot of them are kind of blended.
It's-
They'll have where the red
red,
fades
white, and blue, it's
into
called.
fades into a purple, which fades into the blue.
Yeah. Okay.
So I just paint all that, make it blend.
I'll be darned. That's
So-
interesting. And then does the turkey go on a mold like a deer per se?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's on a farm,
Yeah.
and that the legs are the real turkey legs.
That's what my next question. Now, how does that work? Is that another process?
Well, I mean, you have
Because
to,
there's meat in there, right?
yeah, you have to open up that bone and get all the bone marrow.
Get the
out.
bone marrow out. Of course, clean the outside of the bone off. Quite often, you find bones that are broken.
Really?
then
Big
you gotta
shot, the
replace it.
shotgun, they're
Oh.
broken. So then you either have to repair them or replace them, and that's all a process of getting the job done.
So does the spur of a turkey, does it literally grow out of the bone, or is that does that grow through the skin? Like, what
It
is that
actually-
thing? Is it like is it implanted into the actual
Yeah,
bone of
it's
the
pretty-
bird, or is it like its own separate like a
It's-
callus growth
it's
type or
attached-
fingernail thing?
It's attached.
It attached
It-
to the bone.
It does. So
Yeah.
does the growth come off the bone, or how the hell does it work?
I don't know.
I'm
Yeah, I
not
don't
really
either.
sure. I never really cut one off.
Because you guys, when you clean them, you don't peel that all
No.
back,
No.
right?
The bottom section of the leg and the foot, we do not skin out.
Okay.
We actually inject it with a fluid to
It
keep
preserves them.
from rotting.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
But there's very, very little meat in
Yeah.
there at all.
It's
And
all
so,
cartilage or
Right,
like
there's
bone
a-
and just
and so we just put we inject it with a product to keep it from rotting. And
And then I got to paint those too.
and that stuff will shrink. And so this stuff also keeps it from shrinking, keeps it its normal size.
yeah. Now, do birds have like fleas or ticks too? Do you got to
They
deal
have
with
mites. They have a
mites?
lot of, yeah.
So you got to do the same thing with them. Dip them, or I guess that bathing process. Does that
Yeah.
get rid of that?
That gets rid of most of
And
it.
then,
Yeah.
and then you put preservative like a borax inside of them
Mm.
to keep for bugs and stuff,
And then the fans and everything, I guess, like like the tail feathers, that fan,
We take them off.
and then do those get mounted back in like in the mold?
Yes.
Because that's not those feathers. When you skin that bird out, those don't come like they're not in that hide together, right? You're individually taking all of those out and then re-putting them in, or is that all connected?
It's,
No,
at
that's
once?
all connected.
Okay,
It's connected, and we just fan them out. And
That's crazy.
You just fan it out to wherever you want, and then we use like Bondo. We just Bondo. And that's how you get your farm,
get the
Mm.
shape.
get your shape, however you want it.
So man hours on a turkey. If a deer's 15, where are you at roughly?
Oh boy. Well, it takes
I
me
could
at
say
least
20.
a half a day just to wash one
Wow,
because
I could say 20 plus on a turkey.
20
At
plus
least.
full hours.
Yeah,
To
and,
do that.
and you haven't built the scenery or anything for it yet.
That's
at that
just
time.
the bird. That's not
just
the
the bird.
added
Yeah.
added part to it.
And it varies because if you got a bird that's not shot up and you don't have to make a whole bunch of repairs, obviously it doesn't take as long. So
Okay. What about fish? You ever messed with fish?
nope,
we don't do
don't
fish.
do fish.
I wonder how that process. Well, don't a lot of people nowadays? Don't they just take pictures of them and
That's
they
what they say.
A lot
they
of
take
them do,
molds?
And they paint them. The people that do fish are artists with those brushes, with
Yeah.
those airbrushes. They do stuff that I'm not capable of. She's a lot better with the airbrush than I am, but I got a lot of respect for those people.
So the fish is a no. I mean, that's
We don't
obviously
do
a pain in the butt and you guys are busy enough with the other stuff. I'm sure
Yeah.
that I don't even know what that process would be. I'd like to find out on a fish. Are ducks the same as a turkey?
They are a little different because they got a lot more oil in them. But personally, we do not do ducks.
Gotcha.
You've got to have a federal license for ducks,
Okay.
and because it's a migratory bird, so we don't do any migratory birds, ducks, geese. We don't do any of those because we don't have a license for those,
I see.
And we have plenty to do.
and we keep busy without it.
Yeah.
Our idea is try to be as good as you can at a few things, and not
take
try to
everything.
do everything and do it halfway.
I don't see a problem with that at all. I think that's a good motto. Do you guys think that like bobcats and raccoons and squirrels, and would you do all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah.
Oh, we do all that.
Are those about the same process as is all taxidermy work pretty much a lot of the same process?
Yes.
A lot of it
Yes.
is with variations from thing to thing.
Right. Each animal's got its own little
Each animal
or
has
species,
its own
I
little,
guess
Right.
you could say. You got to do a little bit of different things with this and that.
Right.
Any of your predators are a little bit different than the others, and add a little complication in there. But I enjoy the predators. I really do.
Yeah, I think that they look pretty neat because not a lot of people hunt them.
No.
And then, well, not a lot of them hunt them to have them mounted and stuff
Right.
like that. And so the ones that do, I think you can get some unique stuff out of them because you don't see as much of that as you do deer heads. You know, you can only do so many turns, bends, and angles with deer heads. You know, before it's like, okay, you know, you can only got so much you can do, but there's so many different things like with
With the
predators and
also
stuff.
with the predators, most time the farms don't fit.
Really?
Because like deer, you got hundreds of deer farms, but predators, you don't have that many.
Mm.
And most of the time when you do a predator, you're going to be cutting that thing up.
You mean the
putting
form up?
Cutting
Yeah.
the farm
So
up.
there's some added time.
Yeah,
trying to get it. So you're forming to fit with these things
Yes.
almost.
right.
I
Or if
see.
somebody wants a turn, you know, you want a left turn looking down or something like that, you know, you're going to cut that up to make it look like that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So,
You might cut a shoulder off and reposition it so that it's reaching out for something or stepping up on something. And
I don't think that people realize just how much like imagination's got to go into this. You know what I'm saying? Like
I don't think they
it's
do
easy
either.
for me to visualize what I want it to look like, but for you to make it do that,
Right.
that can't be always
it's not
the
always
easiest.
easy.
let's
the
say a
easiest
bear
process.
farm. On a bear farm, I have never seen one that fit.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't happen. So every bear farm, you get something that's going to be as close as you can, and then you start building it from there. I'd say the average bear farm, we cut in 9 different pieces and put it back together to get the thing to fit.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. So as a hunter, as me, what are some tips for us as hunters when bringing an animal to you to help with getting the best final product that we could possibly have? What are things that we need to do that's going to help you guys tremendously on, you know, even if it's time or just preserving that animal, you know, what are tips for us from you guys?
Well, there's a lot of, you know, they haul them on 4-wheelers. Just make sure, don't lay it over a wheel because we've had some where
Rubs the hair
it
off.
rubs the hair off.
Mm,
Don't drag them
Don't drag
through
them.
the brush and the mud.
yeah.
You know, if you can help it. You know, sometimes you can't help it.
Keep them as
you know.
clean as possible.
Yeah.
If you're going to be going a distance with them, you definitely have to keep them cold but dry. So don't open your cooler and throw them in the cooler and pile a bunch of ice on them because that water will do a lot of damage. Wrap them in plastic and then you can pack ice around them, but don't have them under ice for 3 days driving because the moisture will ruin
And
it.
if you have a place that you can freeze it, the best thing to do is just to freeze it.
Okay.
Bag it and freeze it.
So if I'm hunting out of town, if I'm out of town hunting where I can't get to you that day or the next morning, you know,
Right.
from, you know, if I'm hunting somewhere where I'm not getting home till the weekend, you want me to get this thing caped out. So would you rather me leave more cape?
Yes.
Would you rather me instead of trying to get it high and tight, would you rather me you'd rather me leave more and you'll get rid of it versus me taking it and then I take it too short, right?
Right. And that is one of the issues we run into. People cut them too short, you know. That's one of the reasons once in a while you have to replace a cape because whoever skinned it out cut it off too short.
Any tips or tricks with legs for people that makes it easier for you guys? Like, because I always find that the hardest part is when I'm caping one is getting all that that leg out and without I never fails that I end up as I'm pulling through I cut through the hide. It never fails I get through the hide somewhere at some point.
Well, just be as careful as you can. That does happen. There are specific ways that I like to cut them, but then a different taxidermist has his way he likes to do them.
Right.
So
you think that more cape is better than not enough.
Yes.
And if you can freeze them,
If
ideally
yes.
freeze them. If not, put them in a bag, at
'em
least
real
get them in a
cold.
bag and cold and dry. As
Keep them
you
cold and dry.
is the best.
If they got a lot of blood on them, wipe as much of that blood off as you can. Just take a damp rag or something and wipe off what you can. Obviously, you're not going to be able to get it all off, but all that helps.
Because otherwise it stains and stuff,
Well,
or
we
just
It can.
wash 'em.
harder for you guys
It
to
can.
clean
I
it
mean,
off.
it can, but we wash the deer hides. We wash all the hides. So, I mean, it gets a lot of it out, but it just makes it easier if it's taken care of a little bit better in the field than, instead of having all the blood on it when it gets to us.
But a good mount starts in the field.
Yep.
What's the largest animal you guys have ever done?
Moose.
A moose? Is that a hell of a process?
It is. It's a big animal.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, just to work on this big thing,
The antlers.
just to working on it. And the antlers are heavy as
They're
hell,
heavy.
ain't they?
It took like we've done a couple of them. It'll take like 2 people to put the hide on, and 2 people holding it on. One person putting like some tacks in it, just holding the hide up because it's just so heavy.
Right.
But when we've done a couple moose, and we've actually had fellow taxidermists that have come over and helped us get the farm put together and get the hide on the first day, just simply because of the weight of them.
Right.
It's heavy.
I can't imagine.
I'm not saying it can't be done by one person or 2 people, but it sure is
It's
helpful to have an
3.
extra hand.
So you've done moose, you've done deer, obviously, predators, bears,
Elk.
elk.
We've done
Antelope.
beaver, otter, all that type stuff.
Antelope.
Antelope.
You ever done a caribou?
Nope.
No.
We've
No.
done axis deer.
Axis deer?
Deer.
Are you guys scared to take on any of them kind of animals?
We don't do any African game.
Is there a reason?
The
Just
real
that, is
thin
it
skin.
the skin?
And you have to have a special. You got to have a
They
broker.
have to come through a
They got to
broker,
come through a
imported
broker.
stuff.
It's just
It's a pain in the butt even
It's
probably
a-
getting them here, ain't it?
yes.
And we've had the opportunity to it, but we haven't done them because it's just too many unknowns.
Yeah.
Because when they're handled over, say, in Africa, you don't know what that person's over there, what kind of quality work he's going to do. And the quality work coming out here is dependent on him doing the good work over there.
Yeah, that makes
Yep.
sense. Because
I
then
mean-
inevitably the finished product's in your hands.
That's right.
Yes.
And shoddy work there reflects you because
right.
if you can or cannot fix it, and then the customer says, "What'd you do to my zebra?" or
Yeah.
or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
And it's like you can't replace the hide.
Yeah. Good luck trying to get a
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
So we don't do any of the African game that come over.
And we know several
said-
taxidermists that do. And I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
they
we
do
can
a great job.
refer a person to a good taxidermist that does that stuff and has all the right connections to get all the paperwork done and get it over legally. So
the bears. Is that a process?
it's not
Just-
a process really any more than any other mammal.
Yeah.
A mammal obviously is different than a deer, especially if you're doing a full body, because you got a lot more sewing to do. And like Donna said earlier, the deer, you've got all these different farms and they'll come in 100 different sizes. So you can get a farm to fit it. Whereas on a predator, there might be 10 farms and they come in 2 sizes.
Right.
And you know as well as I do that they aren't too,
They don't match.
they don't match up. So you got to build that farm to fit your hide.
Do you think that, do you feel like it's harder to make the animal the way the person is trying to describe it to you? Like, I want this, I want the head to turn and I want it to do this. Or is it harder to actually find the equipment or the stuff to make that? Like, is that process, is it harder to do all that, or is it harder to find the stuff to make it do all that? Because you said sometimes with some of them forms, you're limited on some of the form work. So then you're like, I guess you get into some of the unknowns with different, and I guess deer, like you said, there's so many different forms, but like
Right.
predators and different other species, there's not a lot to choose from, right?
No, and we get a lot of people will show us a picture. This is how I want it. And then maybe showing you a coyote picture in the wild. Well, there might not be a farm to match that. So you said, okay, this is fairly close. So we are going to buy that farm, and then we will alter it to
look
like the pose that he is wanting.
You ever done a full body deer?
No.
You're going to do one of these days, hopefully before you guys retire.
Well, that's what our grandson says. That's what he wants.
That's my goal, is to shoot my next one. I want to be big enough that's what I want. That I want one.
They look pretty cool.
One of those. I've always wanted a full bodied animal. I don't know. I feel sorry for you guys. But I'm sure that you're going to get one at some point. I guarantee it. Somebody will have.
Yeah.
Well, so
have
far we've never been asked to do one, but I know a lot of taxidermists have, so I know the potential's out there.
So Donna,
Sure.
This question's for Donna, and then it's for Steve too. What is the most satisfying thing about taxidermy for you?
Seeing the customer come in, and especially kids.
Yeah.
When they come in and see their mounts, I mean, they're just jumping for joy, you know.
Yeah.
And they can have the biggest deers sitting by their little one, or what they have, and theirs is a trophy. I mean, it's just to see these kids' faces light up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's phenomenal to see the kids do that. But
Yeah.
we like to have the kids come in the shop.
Yeah.
They're always looking around.
I bet they're full of questions.
Oh yeah,
They are.
Oh, they are.
Some of them are 5 years old, and they ask many questions, and hopefully we have time that we can spend with them.
Yeah.
Because I want it to be enjoyable for a kid to come in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want it to be something that when he goes home, he tells mom or dad, whoever wasn't with him, that, boy, that's neat. You should see this, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's what makes it fun.
Would you say that that's the same for you then, Steve, or is there other things that you find that's satisfying for you?
It's hard to beat the look of a kid's face when he sees that deer. To me, that is probably the number one. I mean, I love it when a adult comes in and you can see that they appreciate the work that was done. But there's nothing like a kid's face, I don't think.
Because what comes to mind for me is, I mean, and I agree with you 100%. I also get excited about, and I'm going to talk about this towards the end, but I also get excited about, the minute I see it, the memories that come back from that day, or, whatever. But I also, just sitting here having this conversation with you, I think to myself, the time that you guys as a couple get to spend together, whether you get aggravated about different things or not. I mean, look at the time that you guys spend as a team, doing this, where if it was just Steve into it, or just Donna, and
Right.
you're out cutting grass and doing your thing, and that's her thing. I mean, this is something that, fortunately for the both of you, whether you admitted, it was more of her passion in the beginning, and then you kind of took into it, or maybe she didn't give you a choice, she was getting in it. But you know what I'm saying? It's neat that you guys do it together. And I mean, you get to bounce things off of each other, and that's something to be said to have a partner in crime like that, because it's one thing if you have two guys that work together that have a shop together, and then one gets mad at the other one and goes home, they don't talk for 2 days because he's mad. But you guys can work through that, and you're back out there in the shop again tomorrow. Yep. and tag teaming on them again. I think there's something to be said for that too.
You have your days.
Sure.
I mean, we don't always agree on everything. but that's part of life.
Sure.
You know, when you're doing mounts and stuff, you know, I might suggest this and Steve might suggest something else, you know, and then just kind of weigh it out and see which way we want to go with it, you know.
And I think we both respect each other's opinions well enough that if we work together, we can produce a better product with both of our minds working on it than we could
100%.
by ourselves.
100%.
by ourselves.
I agree 100%. I mean, you got two minds working on this, and I don't like that angle. Why not? We'll look at it from here. Aha! I didn't think of it like. I mean, I think it's a genius if two people can do it together. You'd be silly not to.
We, I think, both know our strong points, and we both know our weak points. And when it's in her field, that's a strong point. I'll give my opinion, but then we'll talk it over, and we'll do what we think will look the best. But I think it's respect for each other that helps a lot there.
Absolutely. I think that's, if you don't have that, you guys couldn't do this together. I mean,
just like the other
honestly,
day,
there's no way.
I'm sitting back. I was doing something else, and he was working on an animal, and I said, I don't know, maybe you ought to change those ears. But when you're right on something, it's totally different than when you're backed up and you're looking at at a different angle.
Makes sense.
And so after he backed, oh yeah, I can see that now. Yeah. But when and the same way with me, he'll say, you know, hey, maybe this way. And you back up and you can tell.
Right.
You need to change something.
It's the same as if you do something on one evening and you put it up for the night, you go in the house and you think, well, I got it looking pretty good. And then you walk back out the next morning with a fresh mind and you look at it and say, I think I need to change this. I need to change that. Well, we kind of get that with bouncing off each other out there.
I was going to bring that up earlier, but I didn't. But I didn't. I was thinking, because I was asking you about time, how much it takes, how much time goes into it. I can see that, you know, now having this conversation with you, where, you know, you start at 8 o'clock in the morning on something and you're fresh. Okay. You know, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I mean, I don't care what you do for a living, you're not as fresh as you was at 8,
Exactly.
you know? So all of a sudden you go, you find your stopping point and leave and come back the next day and go, God dang it. What was I thinking? You know what I'm, but I can see that when you're staring at something for so long, you know, after a while, it all runs together. It all starts to look good or what, you know, and then you back off and you come back and you're like, holy crap, I can't, you know, I can see that, you know, where it's good to kind of step away from it and then come back and look at it again.
I mean, there's something else you get frustrated on, and that's when he's better than I am. He'll tell me, just let it be. Let's go in and we'll see it tomorrow. And it does help, because otherwise you're sitting there beating yourself to death trying to work on something, and it's not working.
And some of this stuff, when you start farming the eyes, the mouth, that type stuff, some of it, you can work all night long on it and you're not going to get it right, because you've got to let the clay set and harden up and start to cure before you can do the fine detail work. And so we all have a tendency, we want to get this done, so you just keep working on it. Whereas you're better off sometimes just let it set. Let it set overnight. We'll come back in the morning, fresh set of eyes, plus it's had a little time to cure, and we'll get it in the morning.
Yeah, I think that's smart, because you can get yourself overwhelmed, or
you can.
Because I can remember back when I was in my mid to late 20s, there was a brief, and when I say brief, I mean brief, probably a few hours. I thought, you know, I love hunting and fishing and all this, and I think I might like to try this. So I took a duck. We'd been duck hunting, and I was like, watched a few videos on this, you know, on how taxidermy and all this, and I tied into this duck to start trying to peel this thing back and was going to have this thing mounted, right? I was going to do the mounting. I was going to do all this. I think I made it about an hour and a half. And I said, opened the trash can and said, mm-mm.
Not for you.
The patience. I don't think people understand the tedious
There
work
is.
that this is, the time consuming, tedious work. I don't think people I think it's easy for the average Joe to drop something off and they know what it looked like when they shot it or when it walked up to them to shoot it. And it comes back and looks damn near pretty darn close to what it did alive. And they think, man, that was easy. Ooh,
Yeah.
you know, now I get to look at it like that. I don't think people realize how tedious some of this work can be.
But I think as a taxidermist, it's rewarding when I can take that wet, rotten hide and work it and then look at it at the end of the day and say, hey, it's starting to look like like a squirrel again or whatever it was, you know.
Yeah. I just think every person's got a niche, you know, and I don't think that every niche is for everybody.
Right.
You know,
No.
I'm sure that there's things that you wanted to do and then thought, no, I ain't doing that, but you found a niche here, you know, which would lead me into my next question. If someone today was to get started into taxidermy work, you know, this is something that they wanted to do. Where do they begin? What do they do to get into this?
I think it might be easier now than it was when we started. Because when we started, for the most part, a lot of taxidermists wouldn't tell you anything. They wouldn't show you anything. They would not allow you to come into their shop and see what you did. And now it's getting to where not all taxidermists, but a lot of taxidermists will allow somebody to come in kind of as an apprentice or something and sit in and watch what's going on. And it's kind of rewarding to see that individual come in and take an interest in it. Now, with that being said, there's also all the YouTube videos you can watch.
Some are good and some aren't.
There are some classes that you can actually take, but my recommendation for anybody getting into it, join your local state association. We go to the state shows and we show, but we're not going there to try to win awards, which it's nice if you win something, don't get me wrong, but you're there to learn.
They have seminars.
They have seminars.
You go into seminars and learn. It's free.
Right.
So you don't, I mean.
Assuming these are other taxidermists up there.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Teaching this stuff.
Right.
What kind of gear? Like, I mean, is this a acquire as you go type of thing? I mean, is there a basic kit that I'm going to be a taxidermist? Go to Amazon and order my kit, or is this an acquire? You're just constantly acquiring, and I'm sure there's new tools that come out and new things, and you just kind of pick things up as you go.
You pick things up as you go, or at least we have. We never bought any kit or anything. No, it's just always been, well, that would work. My son-in-law does auctioneering, and sometimes I help him. And so if I'm there, my mind's always, I wonder if I could use that in a taxidermy shop. I wonder how I could reprocess, make that something useful, you know?
Right.
There's a lot of stuff out there that
you don't have to buy brand new, you know,
yeah.
Especially somebody starting out. I mean, yeah, you're going to have a scalpel because you're going to have to skin the animals out. And you probably need a mounting stand. Or you can, you know, there's people out there, they might know somebody that can weld.
And they can make them one.
You know, they don't have to buy one.
The first one we had is something we welded up.
Yeah. So what would be your most important piece of advice for someone?
I'm going to say that, number one, you got to have a desire to do taxidermy. Then you got to have the drive to push through and do it. Because believe me, most everybody I've ever talked to that started, you know, somewhere along the line, before they got too deeply into it, they're going, wait a minute, do I want to do this?
Right.
And so you got to have that drive to push through the hard days and get to the rewarding ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, the thing of it is, we need there's a lot of us getting older. We need younger people to continue this taxidermy. It's being a dying art. I mean, you want young people to start learning this, because now this year at our taxidermy show, I think there was, I forgot how many new ones that had joined, younger people. But that's what's going to keep this going.
And even at the show, they got what they call the youth division.
Yeah.
And that was kids 16 years and younger. And it's fun to watch to see what those kids have brought in and see the quality work that they can do. It's really amazing if they got somebody that's willing to take a little time, what they can do.
Yeah, I think that's all valid, because that was going to be a question that I had was, as you're sitting here talking, things always come in my mind while you guys are talking about this. And I was thinking, I would think that at one point, and maybe it still is, probably at one point, it was my dad or my grandpa was a taxidermist. And as a kid, they drugged me in there all the time, and I kind of took to it because I just maybe didn't have a choice, And so then the son or the daughter or the grandson inevitably ends up taking over the business and going. In today's world, I don't think there's as many hunt-oriented families as what there used to be. I'm not saying that there's not as many hunters, but I don't think there's as many hunt-oriented families as what would have been from years past. So when you brought up people letting younger people into their shops,
Right.
To watch, I think it's almost going to have to be a necessity, because that was going to be my question. This has got to be a dying art as a norm. I'm not saying that it would ever go away, because in the reality of things, I mean, let's be honest, there is some financial reward in this.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So there is a way to make money at doing this. So, and there's always going to be hunters of some sort
Somewhere.
that are going to want this. Now, will there be as many taxidermists around as what there has been 10 years ago? Maybe not. Then that makes it bad for me as the hunter, because the less taxidermy, the more demand, which means the price goes up, because there's less people doing it. So that drives the price up. So, yeah, I think it is I think and you said you go to these shows and you see this, obviously, right? Or are you starting to see more people or not?
There's a fair number of young people that are starting. But I don't think there are as many coming in as we see retiring and going out.
There's a lot of going out.
Yeah.
Now, on the flip side of that, the equipment is better now than it used to be. The methods are better. And so it has made it easier for people to get started, and it has made it easier for people to do a greater volume than they used to be able to do, because you can go buy the farm.
Right.
Whereas years ago, they didn't have that option. They had to make them. And so.
Well, that leads me to this question then. Where does, and you just mentioned it briefly here, but so where do people in your world get to showcase their talent? Where do they get to go? And obviously word of mouth and people looking at it, but like where do taxidermists go to showcase their talent?
Well,
and show off how good they are, or
Shows.
Just is there just one show a year, or can you go? Could a person load up a truck with a nice pull behind trailer and just go bounce around and hit these? Are they competitions? Are they shows? Or what are they even called? Both.
But yeah, there are people that we usually go to our state show every year. This year, they're having a world show in Iowa. This year, the national show is in Missouri, I think. Missouri has its own show. Indiana has one.
Every state
Wisconsin
has their
has
own.
one. They all have one. So there are people that bounce from
show
one
to
show
show.
Right.
to the next.
I got you. You guys do that?
No.
No.
The only thing we've ever done is the Illinois show. We have gone to the World Show
But not
and
compete.
set in on seminars and that kind of stuff, but we have not competed at the world level.
Is it time? Is it because of the time? Because don't sit
money.
here and tell me because it's the talent. Because I'm gonna say you're full of shit.
Time and money. It's not cheap. I mean, to travel.
Do you have to enter those
you
animals?
have to enter
So
them.
you have to pay to put them
yeah,
in
you'd
there.
have to pay.
You do.
We have an entry fee that you have to be. Most state shows you have to be a member of their state organization before you can get before you can show anything. Now, like Illinois, it only costs $50 a year.
Which,
Yeah.
So
that's not
there are
bad.
people from Missouri come over here, pay the $50 so they can
And
enter
they
the show.
enter the
And
Illinois show.
same way, there are people from Illinois go to
Go
other
to
states and pay the fee to be a member of their organization.
Is there any of them shows you'd ever want to? So that world show, to enter one animal into that, what would it cost?
I don't know.
It's in Indiana.
It's not prohibitively costly.
What type of month is that? Like when is that?
This year, the World Show seems like it's in August,
Either July or August, something like
and
that.
it's in Iowa this year.
You guys want to go to it?
We're not going to go this year.
No.
No, we got too many irons in the fire. We just don't have the time to get away.
Yeah. Well.
Sometimes that happens, though.
Yeah.
We have been to, I think, 4 world shows over the years.
Is there
4 or
just some
5.
neat?
Oh,
stuff
unbelievable.
there.
Phenomenal.
Phenomenal.
If a person ever gets a chance, they need to go to the World Show.
Really?
Even if you're not a taxidermist,
Even if you're
just
not
go to
taxidermist.
I know because
just go to
I'm
look
thinking
at
about it.
stuff.
I'm thinking about it just to go
It's
check it out.
Yeah.
They have everything there.
Yeah.
And
I
when you're
mean-
talking the world show,
We're talking other countries.
yes, the last
That
world
come
show we were at, I think there were 27 countries represented there.
Wow.
And they're
So that's
bringing species from their countries, stuff that we haven't seen.
Right.
And it's,
So you're-
it's beautiful. And obviously the people that travel from China to bring something over here, they're top of the line artists or they wouldn't be coming,
Right. So you're seeing some really neat
you're seeing
stuff.
some really neat stuff.
That's wild. I see. I
And
never
all
even
these
thought
shows-
about that.
All these shows, like the state show, there are periods like on Saturday and Sunday where the public can come in and walk through and see the
You
shows.
see all the exhibits.
Some of them will have a small fee. The Illinois show, they don't charge a fee. They ask for a donation. If you want to make a donation, you can make a donation, but they don't charge anything for the public to go through.
I'll be darned.
Usually it's not that much.
And some
No.
states do charge, but it might be $5. It's not a
Right. It's not
high
like
fee.
something crazy.
No.
no.
I had a couple questions that people had sent me whenever I put that video that we were going to have you on. Well, I had a couple questions. One of them, somebody said for me to ask you, what's the best way for me, the person at home, to keep my animals clean? Like after sitting, what's the best way to keep those? How to clean them? How do you clean them? Like, what's the best
Like-
way for a person to clean their
Like birds,
mounts?
like I use a feather duster.
A feather
A
duster?
regular feather dust it.
Yeah.
You can
Your
take
deer
some
heads,
real
you
low
need to-
volume air and blow it.
Like your deer, but I mean, wipe them down, and like the eyes, you can take Windex, clean their eyes off, wipe
Yeah.
their antlers off with it. You don't want to saturate your deer and nothing like that.
You
Right.
can take Windex and put it on a cloth and just wipe the deer.
Like wipe its hide down?
Yeah.
Yes.
And go with the
Go
hair.
with the hair.
Okay.
Always go with the hair, and then but if you got a bird, you're gonna want a feather duster because you'll mess the feathers up.
I see. So just kind of be gentle, wipe
Just
them
be
down,
gentle.
go with the hairline,
Yes.
very
Even on your-
lightly, or very not much liquid of any,
Yeah, you don't want
No, not a whole lot.
and then just wipe the antlers down, and
Yep.
you can
You
clean
can
the
actually
eyes.
you can put Windex on their eyes and clean their eyes.
Really? I'll be dang. I think I need to probably do some of mine. I don't think I've ever cleaned them ever, other than kind of when it went. No, that's good. I think I try to end every show with like a final thought. And I was thinking about it today, knowing that you guys were going to be on here. And I think my final thought is, I think hunting and fishing world, the game we pursue, it isn't always about the kill. A matter of fact, I think that's the least important aspect of it. I think the story that's told, or the people you were with, is the memories that are cherished with the preservation of this game, and the stories and passing them along. We'll always tell that story, and I think we as hunters, we owe that to people like you, and I appreciate the business that you guys do, and I appreciate all taxidermists, because I don't think that people realize, if that world's gone, a picture is a picture, but to sit around a table and look at it and tell a story to your grandson, or your brother, or you pass, somebody passes away and they send them animals down the line to somebody that then has them and says, my grandpa killed that, or my uncle killed that. We owe that to people like you. And I was glad you guys come on tonight with me. I think we learned a lot. I think it's a neat, a very interesting trade that you guys do. And I hope that if there's people out there that were ever interested in it, to try it, get into it, try and see if you like it. We're going to need you. People are going to need
exactly
you.
Right.
Any final thoughts from you two?
Well, our number one job is probably preserving the memories for these people. Because as you say, every time you look at that deer hanging on the wall, you will remember exactly where you shot it, who was with you, who helped you get it out. If you took a grandchild out and you see his hanging there, it's going to bring memories back that have no price tag on them.
Yeah. Donna?
Well, about the same. I mean, it's fun, that, especially like I said, with kids.
Yeah.
They'll come in your shop and they'll tell you the whole story, what happened, and it's just great that they can tell you what happened on their hunt.
Yeah.
It's just great.
I love it. Donna and Steve Brown, Hickory Grove Taxidermy. Thank you guys for coming on, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
You betcha.